Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan from Singapore Global Network, and welcome to our very first episode of SGN Diaries, a podcast where we talk about stories and experiences from SGN members around the world. So today we're going to dive into the topic of relocation and repatriation, what it means to return home after living abroad, and the unique challenges and opportunities that come with it. We'll explore the emotional, social, and professional transitions involved in moving back, especially years of building a life elsewhere. To make today's conversation even more meaningful, we've crowdsourced questions and comments from members around the world on our online community to find out what they would like to know about navigating relocation and repatriation. So if you'd like to join our digital community, you can head over to community.singaporeglobalnetwork.gov.sg. So joining us today, we have two guests. We have Mian Li, a Singaporean who spent some time abroad, and also Jinal, who is an expat who has lived in various countries and cities around the world.
My name is Mian Li, and I'm a clinical child and adolescent psychologist. Moved back in 2021, late 2021. Lived in the States for about 10 years and sort of did lots of clinical psychology related work there. But pertaining to the topic today, it will really be about sort of my experience living as an expat abroad, and then that feeling of being repatriated coming back to Singapore. That was something interesting to say the least. So.
Awesome. Okay, we definitely have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah. And over to Jinal. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Jonathan. So my name's Jinal, and I've been an expat for 12 years now, having lived in 4 countries, and have got a beautiful family of 4, presently in Singapore for 3.5 years, and super excited to be here.
To start off today's podcast, I just want to find out what was your personal stories and common experiences. So let's start by what was it like for you when each of you first got back to Singapore, or when you got to Singapore?
So I was living in the States, right? So in the States, I think it was all open, free, easy. You could really travel wherever you wanted to. Suffice it to say, it felt very shocking, really, for Singapore to feel this way. When it was, well, the Singapore I remember and how it is now is that it's nice and open, you know, your friends all around. I guess the second thing I would say would be that while that was uncomfortable, having like sort of knowing that family were around, I think that made it somewhat easier, but not by much.
And Jinal, for you, now having landed in Singapore, in this land of newfound freedom, and having lived in different places, and I'm sure your children have also been exposed to different countries and cities, what was the experience like getting used to Singapore, right?
Good question, actually, Jonathan. Because you'd think Singapore, Hong Kong, being part of Asia, very similar. They've got a lot of similarities, but they're also very different at the same time. So when we arrived, because we're just coming out of COVID, people are very reserved. I think they're very mindful. So making friends was not that easy straight away. It took some time, not just for us adults, even for the children. But they connected. It was easier for the kids to make friends because they started school straight away.
Okay.
Because they had not been to school in Hong Kong for 2 years, because they only did home learning.
Totally virtual school.
Totally virtual school.
Wow.
So they were super excited to go into school, meet people face to face, have that interaction, make friendships. So that, it was just priceless. Seeing them so happy to finally be in a physical school. It took some time, but it happened for them before it happened for me, I'd say.
And personally for you, how was it like navigating that as an adult? Because, I mean, your kids are happy, they're going to school, but for yourself, this is a new place, and being a parent, you also got to learn how to keep it together and still be that good mom.
Yes, that was hard actually for me to sort of, you're happy that your kids are happy, but you still have to restart from the bottom all over again in terms of meeting new people. But I had a great support network. There was a lot of families that moved from Hong Kong when we moved.
Okay.
So we really tapped into each other. We really leaned on each other for advice, for friendship, be it happy moments, sad moments, tears. We really leaned on each other to get us through that initial phase of how do we feel about settling in.
Finding your community.
Exactly. Just your tribe, your community is so important. They really helped me make Singapore an easy place to move.
So as an expat who's lived and moved to different places, what would you call a place to be able to define it as home? What would that look like to you?
That is a tough one, Jonathan. I'm still asking myself, where is home? So you asking me that is interesting because I actually don't know where home is. Unfortunately, as an expat, that is the hardest question you're asking, discussion you're having at home with your spouse or your children who might be almost teenagers and are questioning, right, so where are we going to end up? Or where is home? And because it's job-related opportunity, you actually don't know where home is because you've left so long ago. For me, it's been 12 years. So even though my husband's family is from the UK, my family is from India, where is home between the two countries? Unfortunately, I don't know. Yeah, but you know, we tell the kids, wherever we're living at the moment, that is your home.
Right.
Just to make any sort of move, transition easier, we say this is home, this is our new home. So when we moved to Singapore, we said, Singapore is going to be our new home. Let's make the most of it. We don't know how long we're going to be here, is what we tell the kids, so that they maximize on the opportunities that come their way and experiences.
And for each of your kids, you earlier shared they were born in different countries. Then which place do you think it will be considered home for your son and your daughter respectively?
That is also interesting, given my son was born in England and my daughter was born in Hong Kong. And oddly enough, he considers the UK as his home and my daughter considers Hong Kong as her home. So as parents, we feel very torn.
Right.
Yeah, because my daughter's only ever lived in Hong Kong. She was born and raised there before we moved here. So she doesn't know anything different.
So let's shift the conversation a little bit to what constitutes roots and how expats can establish their roots in Singapore, the experiences that shape of a place and how it gives it that sense of meaning. So Jinal, for you, having been to different places, although home is a little hard to define, but how do you go about identifying roots or being connected to a certain place?
I think having family around as you grow older makes you think, that's it, I have to start putting roots down for my kids, for myself, because my children may go off to university anywhere else in the world or even in Singapore, but then as we grow old, we need to have roots somewhere where they can come back to and say, this is where we're going home for Christmas or we're going home for the summer. Normally where your family is, I think we're drawn to that because we've missed out growing up. For my children as well, they've missed out on grandparents, uncle, aunts, cousins. So we feel like it's important to put roots possibly as close as we can to where family is.
Right. And that's where I really resonate with what Jinal said. And as a psychologist, I think there's a sort of term for this. Horizontal rootedness, where sort of you feel connected. So there are different parts of your identity that feel connected to different things. So when I sort of think of Jinal's kids, right? Daughter, I believe, sort of feels more connected to Hong Kong, and the son feels more connected to the UK. That experience really, when put into the body of an adult, then feels like, oh, there are different parts that we resonate with. And that makes us flexible. And I will say that for myself as well. That makes me flexible. At the same time, that makes it difficult to know then where is home. And that's tough. I would say even right now, yes, I do call Singapore home. Right? I do see family, friends, environment somewhat sort of familiar because it changes a lot, right? Okay, so what are roots? Are they the people whom we meet? Are they the people whom we grew up with? Our family? I don't know. Personally, I do still continue to feel that Singapore is my home. But am I open to considering if that will change? I don't know. I really don't.
I think that's something a lot of people
Right.
Yes, there's no right or wrong.
It really isn't.
Do you think this whole sense of roots will change? Let's say for Jinal, let's say for your kids, you know, as they grow up.
It's very transient, the expat community in Singapore, so they lose friends on an annual basis. And when their friends leave is when they start questioning us. Oh, so how long are we going to be in Singapore? Or where are we going to move to next? And then that's added pressure on you to start thinking, do I have a plan? What am I going to do next? So it's definitely unsettling for the children every year when they're more resilient to make friends, but also every year when friends leave, it's a huge disappointment for them.
And almost like when people leave, then what is community now?
That's true.
I feel like from the expat point of view, it can be really tough, especially, I'm a child and adolescent sort of side, right? And friendships and bonds matter so much that they can really feel a really strong sense of loss. If my tribe isn't here, then is this home? And very naturally, they then turn to their parents, who will then be like, I don't know because we don't know, right? And I think this is what sort of makes it tough. And particularly, I think being a repat to Singapore, had a lot of friends in the States, still sort of love lots of them there, but now I'm back here. So then where is community, where is home?
Let's talk a little bit about feeling welcomed in a new place. One of our members from SGN, his name is Cesar, so he shared this on our forum. So he said, at the end of the day, feeling welcomed is paramount for me. While I don't typically worry much when I relocate to a new country, regardless of its reputation, success, or financial opportunities, if I don't feel welcomed or experience basic human hospitality and kindness, I would choose to leave. It's essential to foster a sense of community and warmth.
That's huge. I think as an expat, that's something that we all always look for when we're moving. Is the country we're going to go to, are the people going to be welcoming? Is it going to be an easy transition? Are they going to be helpful? What are the challenges we're going to have to navigate? So yeah, I think you're moving with your job. So that's one element you don't have to worry about, because that's something that's going to get taken care of. Yeah. It's the social and side that you need to interaction that you need to actually give more thought to. Are people going to just view as, she's only here for a couple of years, should I actually bother investing my time and energy in her? Or
you actually experienced something like that before?
People will ask you, yes, how long are you here for? And you really got to think, what do I say? Initially, I would always say, yes. But if you don't know, if I know how long I'm going to be here, I'll say I'm here for 3 years. Right. If you don't know, most jobs, you don't know how long you're going to be here.
Yeah, that's true.
So then you find this judgment already, where people are thinking, do I invest my time and energy in this friendship?
It feels so transactional, right?
Very. Oh, no. So it's because within the expat community, it is so transient. Right. People feel, when people leave, there's that huge void in your life. And the fact that you have to start all over again many, many times, there's only so many times you can do it. After that, I feel like you kind of take a step back and think, that's it. I'm not investing any more of my time and energy in my friendship with you, or because I know, Ong Mian Li's only here for like 3 years, so why bother? And that kind of worries you as an expat when you're moving.
And at the same time then, because the very action of building community involves being vulnerable, being open, and you sort of talked about there are only so many times you can do that.
Yeah.
And then you sort of get tired and then you distance yourself, which ironically then becomes what makes you feel more isolated in that sense, right? And I will say that for me, my experience as an expat into the States was slightly different. It started off as a study type of thing, which I think many Singaporeans will be able to relate to. So when I first moved into the States, then you had Singaporeans around you. So you had a little bubble. I had a Singapore club, SGS, a Singapore Student Association it was called. So I had a little bubble, and I had that quote-unquote home to explore my connections with other nationalities, if you will. But as I lived longer in the States, then people, after their studies, went back to Singapore. Then I sort of stayed on to do my PhD, things like that. And then I think that's when that feeling of being alone and really relying and hoping that people would open up to me, I think that feeling really was really important. And if people had not reached out to me and were friendly to me, I think I would have felt really alone in the States. How welcoming people are matters so much. And it is precisely that I think now that I'm back here in Singapore and I meet expats, right? Yeah. Then I think that really comes to mind then. Like, hey, like be friendly because and be nice and really try to do more because I experienced it myself. I think having more perspective of the expats who are here and sort of making sure that we are welcoming of them as well. And who knows, them over time might become us.
Yes, that I was just going to say it is a two-way street, and I think people that have had different experiences in different countries then become more mindful and want to be more helpful because you've been through it yourself, so you want to give back to people moving in, and you want to make that a pleasant experience for them.
At the same time, it's like, but I do want to say, hopefully I'm not coming across as like, oh, if you are like Indian or American or Singaporean and you have lived in your country all this time, then you are this like closed person. I don't mean it that way as well, but I guess it's just having been abroad then gives me that perspective, if that makes sense, Jonathan.
As a repatriate yourself, coming home is not something foreign to you. It's not a foreign place, right? So typically when we come home, we automatically feel welcome. But is it common for people who come back to Singapore to have that sense of feeling like they're a stranger in their own backyard, in their own home?
Well, once Singapore's landscape changes very quickly, it is a sort of function of how our country's like. Development is the name of the game, I guess, right? So I think the physical environment changes quickly. That does contribute to that feeling of feeling like a stranger. And second, I think as I sort of discussed a bit earlier, it's around that that people have evolved, and I have evolved too. And it's that process of putting the jigsaw puzzle together again that honestly can feel a bit uncomfortable. And at the same time, as I think about it now, it is the function of having been abroad. You bring back fresh perspective, so there was always going to be this jigsaw puzzling that was have to happen. But yes, that feeling of feeling a bit alienated and wondering if it was the people back home or if it was me really, I think that occurred to me.
And now having been back for at least a couple of years, has that feeling improved?
I wish I could say it's a linear path, and I think Jinal can sort of chime in as well, but it hasn't been. So there are times where I feel like, oh wow, like, oh, I do feel at home. Right now I'm speaking to you, right? I'm in the studio, right? This is home in that sense. So there are times where I feel this way. And then there are incidents that happen, news, people, interactions that then make me feel, I have changed. I'll have to sort of grapple with that more as well. Maybe the sort of the transition back home, quote unquote, isn't complete. All of that really is to say that it is a process and it's not linear, and it still hasn't been for me, I would say that.
Yeah, I think I agree, because being away, and as they say, experiences shape how you view things. So your experiences abroad, or while you've been abroad, you've also traveled other places and you've learned a lot. And when you bring it back to where home is, people can't relate to that same experience or perspective because they've not had that experience. So yes, there is that awkwardness to begin with, I think, with your friends, maybe not so much with your family, because your family is your family. They know you've been on this experience. Yeah. But I think more with your friends, there's a bit of a disconnect, awkwardness, I'd say, till you sort of, they realize that actually, or you realize that, look, they've not had the same experience. So they will think the way they think. And you've been away for far too long, lots of different kinds of experiences that's shaped your view now.
And I can't help then, it's so interesting because the world is as open as it has ever been. You have TikTok, you can literally see the world. Right? Perhaps what binds us together then is that face-to-face connection, that it feels like even with all that social media stuff, that maybe that hasn't changed yet. Because it is true that my friends were able to keep up with me, whatever I was doing or whatever great thing I was doing, since it's...
Because they're just scrolling through your Instagram or
right. They would know all about me, of course, right?
So now that we're on this whole conversation on feelings, I want to move it a little bit further to the topic of stereotypes. This comment was submitted by one of our members. Her name is Joyce. So this is what she wrote. When I first relocated overseas, I was concerned about being stereotyped. I packed a kabaya in my suitcase and made a point of reminding people that I'm from Singapore, even though I still got questions and comments such as, "Oh, you must have good sushi over there." So that's very interesting. Personally, for you, Mian Li, did you encounter any stereotypes in the US when you shared, like maybe, hi, I'm from Singapore?
Yeah. I think firstly people would ask where Singapore was.
Yes.
The United States, you have people from all walks of life, right? And so some of them would then ask, out of curiosity, because they really didn't know. And I think that's fine, right? Then it also ranged to the sort of, the more ignorant type of comments that would allude to color or sort of going back to where you are from. You have different people from different walks of life, so so they say things based on their own experiences, which might not have been the most kind. So yes, I've definitely been on the receiving end of stereotypes. It is what it is, and it does make you feel a bit unsafe, but at the same time.
Definitely.
But I think it's also because, like you said, a lot of them are very ignorant. They don't actually mean what they're saying. I think they're also very curious. They're ignorant, but also very curious to find out more.
So it's not that their comments come from a place of malice.
Yeah, not always it's from a place of malice. It's more like, oh, actually, I'm curious, so maybe you can tell me more.
What they don't see is that sometimes, in spite of, say, what was her name? Joyce's efforts to say, I'm Singaporean, I'm wearing kabaya, what I think sometimes people abroad may not realize immediately is that while they are curious, that's their intention, the impact that they have on people with, say, Singaporeans being abroad, is that it does make the recipient feel a little bit unsafe. And I think people being abroad, expats, right, that's something that sometimes they have to grapple with. And that's not easy to carry that burden.
Especially the children, because my kids go to an international school, so there's children from all over the world there. So people are curious. So actually, are you Indian? Are you British? So, there's a lot of questions and answers, and our kids are then more curious as well.
Definitely.
Where are you from? And then where are you from?
Yes, where are you originally from?
Right, and
then it just starts a big chain of discussion. For my daughter, she gets that a lot because originally she would say she's Hong Kongese because that's where she was born.
Right.
But we used to say she's British because that's her nationality.
Right.
So people would be like, so originally, but where are you from? But you were not born there, so how are you British? Like there's a lot of curiosity around.
That's right, yeah.
Going back to like roots. So where is your home? You saying you're British, but you're born in Hong Kong, and so there's a lot of questions around that.
And then does your daughter like bring home all these questions? Mom, how do I answer all this? I'm confused.
Yeah, she's like, why am I not Hong Kongese? Like, why don't I have a Hong Kong passport? So that again is another process to explain, because children that young don't understand how immigration works, nationality, citizenship, all of that works. So she's thinking, I wasn't born in the UK, so why do I need to be British?
So guys, I want to shift the conversation now to understanding the emotional roller coaster when it comes to moving somewhere else, be it for relocation or repatriation. And so the first thing I'd like for us to discuss is, what are the emotional stages that people typically experience? Maybe for yourself, Mian Li can start. What was the emotional experience like coming home?
Sort of discuss this a little bit, but I think there are a couple of stages when it comes to sort of the emotional roller coaster of which you speak of. I think firstly is that honeymoon phase, which goes away quickly, and the more you move, the shorter that time becomes. Where you are home or you move to a new place, it feels great, fun, interesting, wow, new stuff, right? That quickly goes away, and then it becomes that quote-unquote culture shock phase. As an expat or a repat, but Jinal can speak to the sort of expat part a bit more, where then you feel like, oh wait, I'm different. I feel quite different, and things are different. And how do I sort of adjust? And this time can be, you asked about which one is the toughest. I think this probably is the sort of emotionally most intense time, where it's easy to sort of doubt yourself, like, did I make the right choice? Is there a plan B? And then if and when you sort of get past that phase, then sort of things sort of smooth out a little bit, and it's more of like an acceptance. Okay, fine, I'm going to be here. What can I do to sort of make the most out of it? right? And again, it's not a linear phase or path, but then the sort of last stage will be then that actualization. Oh, I enjoy being here. This is part of my identity now. I've learned some things here. And you sort of incorporate where you are into the identity that you already had in the first place. And then that is when sort of the desired end product, I guess, of us going abroad is to sort of be changed and change. I still sort of go back and forth between like a bit of culture shock, acceptance, and I've been back for about over 2 years now. So I think it underscores how turbulent this time can be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
No, and since you had, initially moved to the US as a student, first as an undergrad, then postgrad, how different is the exit of this honeymoon phase when you were your younger self, right? When you're a student versus now that you're an adult?
I don't want to put a time to it, and I will only speak for it for myself. But I found that time seems to be, for most people, about 1 year. And I moved to the States for the first time, right? That novelty wore off for me. And that sort of coincided with me graduating from my undergrad program and having to go work now.
Right.
Then I think that's when you are really released out into the world, if you will. And I was there alone. So family did not come with me, no one came with me, and therefore I think that amplified the loneliness and the difficulties that I faced, I think.
I think as an expat, your emotional roller coaster comes in sort of two phases. First is when you're leaving that country. You're having to say goodbye to everybody. You're having to deal with your friends saying goodbye. So it's emotionally, you're all over the place. You start questioning yourself, is this going to be the best decision for my family? Are we going to settle in? Is there going to be hiccups? Are there challenges? Which there's going to be loads of. But you're questioning yourself, and obviously that's emotionally a lot for the family. And then the second phase is when you actually get to the new country and your husband goes off to work, your children go to school, and then you're like, right, what am I doing? Right? Because they've all got roles and purposes. What am I doing? I'm obviously setting up the house, but I'm navigating, trying to meet people, make friendships, understand how things work, like simple things like where do you go to get your hair done, or where do you go and to the grocery store to get a particular product. Like it's all new things that you have to, so emotionally you feel overwhelmed. You just feel, oh, it was so easy because it's early days.
Yeah.
So you compare it to your previous expat stint and you think, oh, it was so much easier then, I could just order online, for example. Whereas here you're like, oh, do I need to go to the shop? Which shop do I need to go? Who do I ask? So you need a little bit of hand holding when you first arrive emotionally, where somebody is available to tell you, oh, I think you should do this. So, which is why I think for expats, they rely heavily on a lot of public forums like Facebook. They have so many groups for different nationalities.
Yeah, that's right.
Just for expats in general. So people are very quick to join those, and they give you every answer possible. They're like your Google.
Right.
Because there's not just expats on those forums, there's a lot of Singaporeans. Okay. So that's actually helpful because they know that there could be an example of a Singaporean who's been away for 15 years and has joined that forum because they feel they're also an expat.
Right.
So then she or he could be like, oh, I go to this salon for doing my hair and it's amazing. And you feel like there's a lot of information sharing. So yes, I would say emotionally, there's two phases, when you leave and when you arrive.
Right.
Yes, I'd say tap into every resource possible, make use of everything that's available, put yourself out there, and I think emotionally that'll make you feel better.
Okay. And if you don't mind sharing, how was this emotional experience like for your kids, right? Because earlier you mentioned Hong Kong was the only home your daughter has ever known,
Yes.
right? And now there's this feeling of we have to leave the only home you've ever known and go to somewhere called Singapore.
Yeah.
Right?
It was tough. I think it was tougher. The younger they are, I think it's easier because they are not able to put two and two together in terms of how it's all going to pan out. But the older they get, they also start thinking, oh, now what if I had this best friend here? What if I'm not able to make a best friend? They start comparing sizes of schools. Like school size in an international school size in Singapore is huge compared to Hong Kong or even compared to England or anywhere else. This is like 3,000 children. Where the school my children go to, there's almost 3,000 children.
Right.
So I think those things, it's hard for them to sort of fathom, how am I going to navigate? It's not just friendships, but also like size and scale of the school makes you overwhelmed, right? So that also makes them quite emotionally drained because they're trying to navigate a new country, a massive school, friends from all over the world. So culturally, everybody's different. So yeah, emotionally, it's a huge impact on them. They may not say it, but you can sense it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to hear that as a psychologist and as of thinking about the impact. I mean, if we adults, we are talking about moving in sort of such emotionally laden terms, it just breaks my heart really when I think about the kids when sort of trying to move from place to place, losing their friends. I've never experienced it and I just can't imagine how they would feel.
Yeah. I mean, it does make them resilient, but you also, after a while, feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Because emotionally, they have to start all over again. Like we were talking previously about investing in a friendship.
Yeah.
They also need to reinvest in a new friendship all over again. But that friendship could only be for 6 months or a year if that child's going to move away. So it takes a huge toll on them.
So another feeling which is usually associated with relocation and repatriation is feelings of being homesick, right? So one of our members, her name's Amira, so she contributed this. So she said, I was a student who lived abroad for a while, and I found myself really struggling with homesickness, especially since my closest friends were European and couldn't relate to the things that I missed, which were Asian spices, the languages she spoke, and she said it was tough to find food I liked, and I often felt like nobody understood what I was going through. How can someone cope with those feelings of homesickness when living in an unfamiliar country?
She just did a really good job being aware of her feelings. And I think just being aware of it and sort of embracing and living in it, I think that's the great first step. I think there are a lot of things that can be done, mainly around, and maybe we'll sort of chat more about it with the ABCs. But this is where finding that balance B is really important. On an individual level, what can you do? Sort of little things you can do to sort of find balance within yourself. Finding balance on a sort of community level as well. So it could be phoning a friend back home, asking your parents or friends to send you food, spices that you don't have, right? These little things can help sort of balance you back in that sense, right? And then C, I think, will be connection. So really reaching out to people, like what she's doing right now. So when you reach out, then that's when you can find help.
100%. My biggest tip would be put yourself out there. As nerve-wracking as it sounds, but reach out, join forums, join meetups, join lots of groups, just put yourself out there and you will find like-minded people and hopefully people from your country that you can sort of resonate with to sort of fill the void of being homesick a little bit. Because you can share and talk about things back home, right? Where you find people from where you belong.
Was there something tangible, an item or anything in particular which would personally for you help alleviate that feeling of homesickness?
For my family, what we end up usually doing is we try and do annual photo books.
Oh, photo books.
And especially when we visit family, or there's like big occasion, like big milestone birthdays or big holidays or moments with the grandparents, we try and do photo books. And then every time the kids are homesick, they kind of look at the photo book and it just sort of helps them feel a little bit better. I wouldn't say it takes the homesickness away because you miss out on relationships, right? You're missing out on your time with your grandparents or your uncle, or your aunt, your cousins. And you also feel more homesick thinking all of them are having a good time without me. So that also is an element to consider, right? Because you are going to think, oh, but they're all over there. I'm missing out on a big wedding that you possibly can't go to or a big milestone occasion. So I do think doing something tangible like a photo book has helped my family.
That's really interesting. And for me, what about you?
Mine is something lame. Like, so I brought a Singapore flag from home. Those ones that you can sort of put your little the stand.
Right.
I didn't do anything tangible, but I will say like our National Day Parade is broadcasted overseas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The feels, the emotion, I think, seeing that being broadcast, and it's not common for a country to broadcast their National Day Parade overseas, I don't think. I'm not sure. Things like that, at least as cliche, it's going to be really like cringe for the people listening to this, okay? But like Singapore songs, your home. I think those songs, I think, really hit you differently when you are abroad, and I think that helps encapsulate that feeling of that bittersweet moment of wanting to be home, but knowing that you are here for a reason, abroad for a reason. And the last thing I would say is that really I wanted to sort of emphasize is please reach out, because there's a reason why they call it homesick. When you sort of miss home too much, you can fall sick. When we start missing people, we start getting isolated, sickness does happen. So I really just want to caution against that. And
just have somebody to talk to is important.
Just to reach out.
Yeah.
And since we're on this thread, Mian Li, I wanted to ask you in your capacity as a clinical psychologist, right? How can parents also help their children navigate through these emotions as well? What can parents do, and what can children do as well for this?
Plenty of steps. If I were to pick out just one, grieve together with your kids and sort of acknowledge the pain and hurt they are going through and they have been through. Because like I said, if it's difficult for us adults, I cannot imagine how excruciating it is for them. So grieve with them and sort of say, this is difficult. We are doing this for a reason. Papa, Mama wants to move, whatever reason. It might not feel... And if they say, I don't understand, why do you have to leave? That's just tough. So really sitting in that pain with them, I think that helps them. That really forms that foundation of love and support that they hopefully can come to expect from their parents. Then the sort of things that we have talked about then apply. Going out a bit more, making friends, reaching out to people, be it people sort of in your current location or people back home. I think those are two things I would say. So number one, grief, and sort of be able to sort of sit with them and support them. And then second, sort of encourage them to sort of go out and do a bit more thing. Because as adults, we are able to regulate our emotions a bit more, hopefully, and are able to sort of say, we feel down, but let's go out and do things. And by that, actually, sort of from a developmental perspective, we are really modeling a lot of sort of adaptive behaviors, that we can feel this way and we can still do things that can make us feel better, which in turn gives our kids a sense of self-control. That I can feel difficult and Papa, Mama do sort of, they don't tell me to like, don't feel it, you are fine. I think that builds a very nice base.
Yeah, I think I would like to add, and I think agree with Mian Li on that, it's do not be dismissive of your children's feelings. Acknowledge it is the first step, because then it just helps the process a lot better. And usually for expats, when we're moving, we try to find, like for my family, we try to find 4 or 5 exciting things. When we're moving to Singapore, we're like, oh, there's a night safari. There's only so many places in the world you can do night safari, which isn't very many, and we're moving to one.
Yeah.
So you need to actually find things that are going to be exciting enough for them to then stop worrying about, oh, we're leaving all this behind.
Okay.
So finding exciting things to do with them in the new country helps emotionally for them to get excited.
Right, okay. Okay.
And I mean, to reiterate my point, I think it's important to also say to them, include them in your decision making. When you are making a decision and they are old enough, it's important to have a talk about it as a family. So they are included in the decision-making process, so they don't feel like, oh, you've just decided you're going. Have you asked us? It's trying to just get their opinion. They're not making the decision for you, but having their opinion means you're showing them that sort of importance in the family, which also emotionally is a good step forward, I'd say.
Okay.
And also, as a parent, it's as you acknowledge their feelings to say, oh, I know you're not settling in, or you're not happy. But it's also sharing your own experience a little bit. Where even mummy is having today she got lost, or she had this and she was frustrated. Sharing about how you feel and your frustrations, then they realize, because as children they think, oh, but they've just got it easy, they've figured it all out because they're adults, which is not the case. We're also going through the same emotions just as the child is when we move countries. So sharing some of your experiences with them to say, oh, you know, even mommy feels sad today because she misses her friends, or she misses this, or she misses her favorite restaurant, little things like that, they can relate a bit more. And that also helps them to sort of think, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one feeling this way.
Thanks, guys. We've talked about a lot of things today. So as we wrap up today's conversation, if there's just one parting tip which you could offer to Singaporeans coming back home or expats who are relocating elsewhere, what would that one thing be?
I would say go do it. If you are a Singaporean sort of trying to go abroad, go do it, please. I think it will sort of give us perspective of the world. I would really say, you might find yourself understanding Singaporean and Singapore in a different light. So go do it.
Great. My biggest tip would be put yourself out there. There's going to be a lot of other people who are in the same boat as you. So you're going to find lots of help along the way. Do not feel shy. Do not be afraid to ask for help. There's a lot of resources available. As an expat, go out there, make the most of it, and enjoy the expat experience.
Awesome.
I'd say.
Thanks, Jinal. Thanks, Mian Li.
Thank you.
So guys, if you have any stories or things you would like us to talk about, or if you have questions, do join us at our online community. You can check out community.singaporeglobalnetwork.gov.sg. You can head there, make friends from all over the world, take part in our forums if you have questions, if you need help to move to a new place, what is it like to come to Singapore, what is it like to move abroad. Or if you are relocating to a new place and you would like a new friend, you can check out our online function. It's called SGN Kakis Abroad, so that you, as a newbie, can have someone you can have coffee with, can have lunch, and at least you have a friend in that new place that you're heading to. So with that, thanks guys for joining us today. And if you'd like to stay in touch with Mian Li or Jinal, we'll put in their socials over here down below. And with that, thanks for tuning in, and bye-bye.